Alright, hello. Welcome to the modified Kirby-Bauer protocol, also known as the antibiotic disc lab. What we're going to do today is we're going to make a plate, an agar plate. We're going to pour some bacteria on there, and then we're going to use these antibiotics over here, these antibiotic discs, and we're going to see if any of them inhibit bacterial growth on the plates. So first things first, we take our ethanol spray, and we're going to spray down our work area. We don't want any stray bacteria coming in contact with our agar plate because we want to continue to use the bacteria that we know is in the green test tube over here. So we're going to use sterile technique. We're going to dip in ethanol when we're transferring bacteria and all of that. So once our area is nice and clean, we can grab our plate. Now our plate has two sides, obviously. It's got the actual bowl side where the agar is, and then it's got the lid. The lid in this case has some precipitation on it. And whenever we're writing on an agar plate like this, we always want to make sure we write on the actual agar side, the side that has the agar in it, for a couple of reasons. Number one is this precipitation that forms here. If it were in the incubator like this, in this direction, some of this water might drip down on our bacteria, and we don't want that. So what we do is when we put it in the incubator, we actually flip it upside down and put it in like that. So that makes it a little bit easier to read since it's not written on the lid. And secondarily, if something were to happen to this plate and the lid and the agar become separated, we would have no way of knowing what was actually on this agar plate because we could never be sure that the lid went to this one. Okay? So we're always going to write on the agar side itself. I'm going to take my super scientific Sharpie here, and I'm going to take the ruler that can be found in the lab drawer, and I'm going to make a 4-quadrant section here. So 2 lines intersecting. Okay. And then I'm going to label my disc, my plate, with my name. I'll put my teacher's name. I'll put the date. Okay. And I could also put my lab partner on here too, if I had one. And now finally, I'm not quite done yet. I need to label each of the individual quadrants with the individual antibiotic discs that we're going to be using. So we have ampicillin, erythromycin, tetracycline, and penicillin that we're going to be using. So I don't have to write out the entire thing. I'm just going to put a P for penicillin. I'll put a P for tetracycline. I'll put an E for erythromycin. And I will put an A over here for ampicillin. Okay? They're all labeled. You'll notice I didn't write anything in the middle of the quadrants because we're going to be putting the disc in the middle, and you don't want your writing to cover up the measurements that we're going to end up taking tomorrow. So we're done with this. I've got my bacterial tube here. Notice it's got some bacteria in the bottom. I'm going to be using all of that. I also have my bowl of ethanol and my loop. So I'm going to make this sterile by dipping it in the ethanol and then letting that dry. You want to be careful not to blow on this wand because you might introduce some germs. So just letting it air dry is alright. Give it a couple seconds. Okay. So I'm going to flip over this dish, and once I pour the bacteria on, I'm not going to flip the disc back over until we're ready to put it into the incubator. Okay, so I'm going to take the cover off, open up the bacteria, pour it on. This bacterial tube will be disposed of in the biohazard waste can over there, the red one. Take my sterile tube, and I'm going to very easily spread the bacteria around, and once I'm done spreading one section, I give it a quarter turn and I spread again. You want to do this very, very gently. We usually say that you want to push as hard as you would push on your own eyeball. Sounds kind of gross, but it's true. If you're pushing too hard, you could actually go through this agar, which is kind of like a very thick jello, and you don't want to do that. You don't want the bacteria to go through the agar. You just want it to hang out on top. So once I've spread all of that, that's fine. I'm going to discard the loop in the biohazard container as well. And then I can go on to adding my actual discs. So again, sterile technique. The forceps can be found in your lab drawer. I'll dry them off from the ethanol, let them get a little bit dry. Don't want to grab them with too much ethanol on there. Okay. So ampicillin is my first disc I'm going to use. I'm just going to go in, I'm going to grab it and carefully transfer it over to my plate and put it in the middle. Now I'm going to push it down just a little bit because we do want it to adhere to the surface, because remember, we're going to be flipping these plates over and we don't want the disc to fall off. However, I'm not going to push it down too much that it actually goes into the agar. That wouldn't be good. So ampicillin is done. Sterile technique. Every time you switch antibiotic discs, you want to stick it in the ethanol tube again. Make sure you're nice and clean. So there's my erythromycin tube, antibiotic disc. Just give it a little bit of a push, and notice I'm leaving the cover on the plate to try to limit bacteria that can fly in there. So we'll dip. And grab the tetracycline where the T is here. Just a little bit of a push. And my last one is penicillin. Spread them out, make it a little bit easier to grab one of these guys. Here we go. Okay, penicillin disc, all done. So I'm going to sterilize one last time so I can return it back to my lab drawer when I'm all done. I'm going to leave my dish here until the end of the class period. What I want is the bacteria to start to adhere to that agar, and I want the discs to make sure that they're nice and adhered as well. With a few minutes left in class, I'll take my plate and I will take my partner's plate and we'll stack them on top of one another like this. We'll tape them together, walk them over to the incubator, and just before you put them in the incubator, you want to flip them upside down and store them agar side up. And we'll do your measurements tomorrow. Alright, I hope you enjoy the lab. Good luck!